Hey guys, this is RolloutReviews with RolloutReviews, bringing you another S.H.Figuarts review. This time it is Kamen Rider Double Cyclone Joker. So, we will set the figure itself over here and take a look at the packaging really quick. Honestly, it's pretty boring. But there it is. So here is Double Cyclone Joker himself. Very strikingly, first off, one side is shiny and resilient with this sort of metallic paint, and the other side, while it's not like matte finish, it's definitely a lot more dull. The SIC and I think Kamen Rider Joker had sort of a matte finish on this side, and this one definitely is not, but it's a lot more dull than this side, and I do really like that contrast. Taking a look at the head sculpt, it is really nice. Usually S.H.Figuarts, takes a little bit of a stylized approach, not much, definitely not anywhere near the level SIC takes it or many other toy lines, but this one is actually really good. It does look very accurate to the suit design in the show, surprisingly more than many of my other Kamen Rider Figuarts, but that's no exception with the head. The one minor issue is maybe that the little fin here, the W fin, I guess it's not a V fin, it does look a little bit thicker than it should. I mean, obviously it's a thin piece of plastic, and having it any thinner than that would mean brittleness, but yeah, it does look just a little bit off for some reason. Not too much, though. It does have the fantastic compound eyes there. I do feel that the little jewel on his forehead is a little bit lost because of the girth of that fin. It is just painted on, and I would have liked to see that maybe in some translucent plastic, but oh well, maybe that's asking a little bit too much. It does have the vent details on this side here, and the gold, and then the little, I don't know, symbols on the Joker side, on the cuffs and anklets there. It does look really, really good. Now, it does have some very simple designs on the legs and arms. I do think that this comes across as being a little bit better than the O's figure I reviewed recently because, well, while it's a very simple design, it has detail there. There are little lines, and it's not just sort of a flat surface. So, despite the fact that it doesn't have the folds or anything of a normal suit, it still does look a bit more interesting. Taking a look at the driver, I do wish, once again, that the memories were sort of a translucent plastic. Here they're just black. But, I would like it. I would like to compare it to something like the O's driver or the Forze driver, S.H.Figuarts, but, those were later releases, and I can't really expect them to, not improve over time, so those being later releases, obviously they're going to be better, so not expecting too much there, but it would have been nice. It does have the green and purple details below, maybe a little off-center, but it is there, so that's nice. Also does have the maximum drive slot on the side there, and, I probably should mention that it does have the little scarf back here, done up in silver. So that is very cool. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Double's design, just because I'm really big on symmetry, and obviously this is everything against that, but there's just something about this figure that really, really works, and it looks fantastic. Finally, it's also worth noting that he is one of the older Figuarts that actually has die-cast feet. This is probably the last, to my knowledge, main rider that had die-cast feet. Everything after Double went to plastic, and it is really nice. He's got a lot of weight to him. He feels very substantial, and he stands really, really well. Now, this guy's articulation is fairly unhindered and, well, pretty standard for a Figuart, honestly. The head is on, the double ball joint, goes all the way around. His little shoulder pads are on these little hinges, so they get out of the way pretty well. He's got an internal ball joint there, so it goes all the way around, in and out. Swivels up here, has a double joint at the elbow. That sometimes looks a little bit ugly, just the way the armor is sculpted there from some angles that doesn't look particularly right, but it's not too big of a deal. It also might bother some people that this joint is black, when in fact it's supposed to be green, but you can't expect them to mold two completely different colored joints on a single figure unless you're, paying much more than you are for this. The wrist goes all the way around. It's on a hinge and a ball joint, although I do think it might be just a little bit limited compared to some of my other Figuarts. The waist goes all the way around down here, but up there is a joint, but it doesn't really get much movement out of it, so that seems maybe just a little bit pointless. But this one here is pretty mobile. It goes all the way around. His scarf in the back is sort of on a mini ball joint there. It can go around and out just a little bit. Now his hips are fairly well done. Again, the O's figure I reviewed earlier didn't do this very well, but here, you have the Type 2 or Type 1. I never know. Who knows? But the sort of down hinge style legs. So they go out, that far, but they actually go forward as far as you'd expect, and back pretty far as well. So no problems with that. The tolerances are pretty good there as well. Does sort of swivel there. It's got the double joint in the knee. Once again, you have that black joint on this side, but it doesn't look too bad. Overall, I do think the breakage there is seemingly well done, although these sections here are sort of a softer plastic, it would seem, and because of that, it's sort of, comes out a little bit just on this side, sort of giving the illusion that he has sort of a bow leg, but it isn't, and it's just on this leg. This one doesn't have that problem. Oh well, minor qualm with the figure, nothing really too bad though. Now the ankles, they go forward and back. They're on a proper hinge system instead of a ball joint. But I do find that just due to the build of the die cast, I think it is a little limited, especially on this foot for some reason. On the Joker half, I do get a lot more out of that joint. So I'm not really sure what the big deal is there, but it is worth noting, I guess. And then he does have the toe. So overall, he's, very articulated. That's only expected from a Figuart, but here it's pretty well done. He's really fun just to mess with and get in many kinds of poses. These guys are really ideal sort of desk toys. They're just fun to mess with, especially when the articulation is well done like it is here. Now, while the accessory count on this figure is pretty minimal, this is Double's least armed form, so he basically comes with everything I'd expect him to. You got some fists, you got some slightly pointing hands for counting up fool's sins, at least one of them. And while this is something that Shotaro's side usually does, he comes with two. Also a green one, so there is that. But these are probably my favorite accessory that he comes with because they're so versatile. They're nonchalant enough to just hang off to the side. They can point. The thumb is out just enough to do some Philip pondering, and you can do some flicky wrist action as well. I really like these hands. They're in a very ideal pose. Now he also comes with some two-finger out hands here for the henshin position, which is nice. And he also comes with some, slightly more splayed out hands. Now, it could just be me, but I think the angle the thumb is out on this hand is just a little awkward. It puts it at that weird position in between, energetic and nonchalant, but not quite either of those things. So, you can't really have it off to the side too well. You can't really have him in sort of an action pose with it. I don't use these as often as I do the other hands, but they are there if you want them. Now, switching the hands on this guy is needlessly difficult. I don't know why it's so hard on this one compared to other Figuarts that I have, but this is a complaint that a lot of people have. So, let's try doing it on camera here. that is a little bit scary. I could just be naive, but I don't think it's gonna break. You know, the hands are sort of a rubbery plastic, whereas this is a very tough plastic, despite how thin it might look. I don't think you're gonna break it, but do be careful with that. Now, getting the hand on is where the real problem comes. Could be easy here. I could be just jinxing myself, but yeah, I got it on pretty easy there. But just because it has that joint, and because it's very difficult to get on in the first place, it can be tricky. That hinge can move when you don't want it to. But there you go, the hands do swap just like that, but do note that they are pretty difficult to do that with. Now, the last accessory he comes with, because he doesn't have any weapons or anything, is an extra scarf. Now, this one is just kind of hanging there, and it has the ability to go over to this side, which is nice. You can have it flowing in the wind like that. It isn't quite long enough to be the one from the opening sequence, but I think the Cyclone, or maybe the Cyclone accessory pack or something like that comes with a longer scarf if that's something you really need. It's sort of a very tiny ball joint that just sort of sits in there, and you can replace it with this one, which is in 2 parts and, well, a little more aesthetic, I guess. But that just plugs in like that. You can have it any which way, and it blows in the wind. It looks just a bit more dynamic. I like the way it looks, but you are a little bit limited just because of the shape of the joint. You can't really have it going off to this side too far. But it's a nice thing, and really, I don't know what other accessories they'd have him come with. Maybe a hand that has like a memory molded into it, and maybe like another driver that's closed with a memory missing. Something like that would have been cool, but definitely not something that's necessary. All in all, this is a great figure. Now, this is the oldest Figuart I own, but color me impressed. While some of the later Figuarts are arguably a little more detailed, this just has a very solid construction. Those die-cast feet really worked for it, and it's fun to play with. All of the joints have excellent tolerances. I don't have any issues with that at all. I really recommend this figure just as a Figuart. You don't even have to like Double, because it's just a fun toy to play with. Now, it might not be for you if you don't like Double's design. However, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not the biggest fan of Double's design myself. But via this figure, because it's so good, the design is starting to grow on me. Yes, he does have the slightly scary wrists, but get beyond that and maybe get beyond his minimal accessory count, and you are going to find this figure very enjoyable. So that is about it, guys, and this is IX Roll at IX, signing off.